Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my first reaction video to the college football playoff rankings. Every single Wednesday, I will be releasing my reaction video to the rankings that come out every Tuesday night. These were so important. They're the initial first rankings, November 2nd. We got them last night, and guys, I am ready to absolutely unleash on the college football playoff committee. That might have came out a little wrong. But anyways, quickly, let's just first take a look at the top 25, how it is now, and then we'll get to the things that I was most surprised by. You look at this, Alabama coming in at number 2. Little surprising there. Cincinnati, I was really surprised Cincinnati was below Ohio State. Michigan over Oklahoma. Oklahoma, to me, was the most surprising. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But just looking at the top 25, as you can see, a lot of SEC crap, including Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Kentucky. How about Minnesota coming in at number 20? Fresno State is a good team. I agree with them being included. But when you take a look at things, first we're going to talk about things that I was not surprised by. So things that I expected going in to last night and the initial rankings. Oregon over Ohio State based on today. Okay, so when you look at Oregon and Ohio State, many of us use the eye test. I'm a true believer in the eye test personally. You use the eye test. Ohio State's better than Oregon, but you have to understand the resumes right now at this point in the season are comparable. It's not like Ohio State has this crazy better resume than Oregon. They will if they win out. Even if Oregon wins out, Ohio State's going to have a crazy good resume due to how strong the Big Ten is. But right now, as we stand today, you have to put a lot of weight in that head-to-head. It was week 2 early in the season, but still, Oregon beating Ohio State in Columbus. I will say, you know, I saw last night on ESPN, they were like, Oregon beat Ohio State handily. Anytime you give up 600 yards of total offense, you're not beating a team handily. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. You say, oh, Oregon beat Ohio State handily. Sure, they controlled the game, but they didn't beat. You give up 600 yards. I mean, come on. You're not beating them handily. But right now, Oregon being over Ohio State, I'm fine with. I really don't think this debate's going to matter in a few weeks because I believe Oregon will lose to Utah. They're on the road at Utah in about 2 or 3 weeks. Utah is a team that I really liked in my preseason rankings. I think they are an under-the-radar team. They're better than the record says they are, and I think Oregon will get their second loss then. So the head-to-head narrative, this is funny. Committee already caught in a double standard, and I really want to get into this. So Wisconsin and Penn State have the exact same record. Penn State early in the season beat Wisconsin in Madison. So Penn State holds the head-to-head win over Wisconsin on the road, just like Oregon does over Ohio State. Wisconsin ranked 21st, Penn State unranked, and this really goes back to the point where Reese Davis was trying to jam it down our throats that, oh, the head-to-head is so important when it comes to the committee. Like he's setting up if Oregon wins out and if Ohio State wins out, Oregon would get in over Ohio State because, oh, look how important head-to-head is. And then you look at the ridiculous double standard where Wisconsin loses to Penn State at home. They have identical records, yet Wisconsin's ranked 21st and Penn State is unranked. So that was just a little something that was very funny that no one talked about. Another thing I wasn't surprised by, average SEC teams being ranked, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Auburn. I was just thinking to myself earlier this morning, I was like, are we sure Ole Miss is even that good? I mean, seriously? What are they ranked, like 16th? I'm not even sure they're that good. And then you've got the egregious ranking of Mississippi State being ranked 17th. Yeah, it's a complete Alabama resume boost. They're talking about how, oh, Mississippi State's a good win. How about Mississippi State? They lost to Memphis and LSU and obviously got blown out by Bama 49-9. And they're sitting there at number 17th. Why? Who knows? It's ridiculous. Guys, remember when Penn State beat Auburn by 8 points playing their C game? And they gave Auburn, the refs gave Auburn's extra possessions. They give them extra downs because it got so bad. Penn State playing their C game beats Auburn by 8 points. Like these teams, Mississippi State, think about this for a second. Mississippi State against Nebraska. I got Nebraska head to head. Neutral field, Mississippi State, Nebraska. Give me Nebraska. I mean, seriously, how Mississippi State, they're ranked for an Alabama resume boost. They lost to Memphis, they lost to LSU, and they got destroyed by Alabama. If they were competitive in that game, okay. This is not a good team. Now on to things that I was surprised by. Oklahoma ranking, and I give the committee full credit for this. Eye test matters. Kansas, LOL. So Kansas is so bad. Kansas lost to Oklahoma State last week. What was it, 52-3? I don't remember the final score, but it was just so uncompetitive. The point is, Kansas is, at this point, I think they're worse than Vanderbilt, and they are the worst team in all of Power 5. Either way you look at it, Kansas and Vanderbilt are so much lower than everyone else. But the point is, Kansas is so bad. That matters. Being down 10-0 to Kansas at halftime, that matters. All of these people saying, oh, the eye test is stupid. Do they not realize, do they not understand that analytics, that FPI, that all of these metrics that go into ranking these teams, that is the eye test, because you're taking the context from the game and you're using that to rank these teams. You're not just looking at the final score. You're not just looking at Oklahoma winning or losing. There's a huge, monumental difference between Oklahoma beating Kansas 55-0 in a game where they're up maybe 42-0 at halftime, and them being down 10-0 and ending up winning the game by 12 points. There's a huge difference. But all these people who say eye test doesn't matter, oh, it's the same thing, right? Because Oklahoma won both games. No, it's a huge difference. If you do not believe in the eye test, you do not believe in any analytical system that ranks teams, because they rank teams based off of total yardage, based off of efficiency. The final score, like, for example, let's just say South Carolina is facing Florida this weekend. Let's say Florida outgains South Carolina by 300 yards, but they have 4 turnovers and lose by 1 point. Does that make South Carolina better than Florida? Is Texas A&M better than Alabama? And then they'll say, oh, so winning doesn't matter. No, winning matters. If Alabama loses to Georgia, they're out. The fact that they lost to Texas A&M gives them no room for error. If they would have beaten Texas A&M, then they could have lost to Georgia in the SEC championship game, and it wouldn't have mattered. So winning matters. It's just these people that say the eye test doesn't matter, it's so ridiculous to me. That's what computer models base everything off of. When you use the eye test and you see Ohio State beating Indiana 44-7 at halftime, and Cincinnati struggling with Indiana, losing that game by 2 touchdowns, late in the second quarter, that matters, okay? Both Cincinnati and Ohio State ended up beating Indiana. Michigan State ended up beating Indiana, but 2 teams significantly struggled and Ohio State destroyed them. I'm not saying Ohio State's this unbelievable team. I'm just using it as an example. The eye test matters. And it was great to see Oklahoma come at number 8. They've struggled all season. They were so bad they had to replace their starting quarterback. That's how bad it got. I know they're undefeated, but it's just so great. And to me, that signals, if Oklahoma slips up once, I think they're done. Even if they're a 1-loss Big 12 champ, I don't think they're getting in the playoffs. And that is great. And you know what's really good news for Cincinnati is, as bad as it was, Cincinnati coming in at 6th, Oklahoma being behind them. And that's the whole thing. If Oklahoma loses one game but wins the Big 12 championship, I still think if Cincinnati wins out and is a 0-loss team, they're going to be ranked in front of Oklahoma. That's good news. Let's get to the Cincinnati ranking. Need all of the same stuff. So yeah, Cincinnati, you take a look. They came in at number 2 in the AP. They're number 6 in the college football playoff rankings. All the Cincy fans go crazy. They freak out. The bottom line is they're in the exact same situation. You're going to need Georgia to beat Alabama. You're going to need the Big Ten to cannibalize itself, which it will. So one team comes from the Big Ten. Georgia comes from the SEC. Not 2 teams from the SEC. That takes up 2 spots. You're going to need Oklahoma to lose a game. Again, it's very good that Oklahoma is behind Cincinnati right now. For as bad as last night was for Cincinnati fans, the fact that Oklahoma is behind you, if they suffer 1 loss and Cincinnati wins out, I don't see how you could justify, even if Oklahoma wins the Big 12 championship, I don't see how you can justify moving them ahead of Cincinnati with 1 loss, where Cincinnati would be undefeated. And then the Pac-12, you need Oregon to lose a game, whether that comes in the Pac-12 championship, whether it comes in the form of losing to Utah. I think Oregon, I said this, Utah probably will beat Oregon. So it's you need the same stuff to happen. 0 teams from the Pac-12, 1 team from the Big Ten, 1 team from the SEC, and then Oklahoma lose a game possibly in the Big 12. That's the type of stuff you need. Sure, you're ranked 6th. It's not great. You need to start looking more impressive, but you're in basically the same spot as you were before. When it comes to Cincy's actual ranking, I was overall surprised they were behind teams like Ohio State. The fact that Alabama was in front, okay, we're going to get to this right now, I think. Alabama is going to be very, very annoying. And I will say I am optimistic from what Herb Street said. If you guys watched last night, Alabama coming in at number 2, and Herb Street immediately shot down the idea of a 2-loss Alabama making the playoffs, which was great to see. I don't know if he's just speculating. I hope he knows something within the committee where they're not going to let a 2-loss Alabama team into the playoff. The reason I say Alabama is going to be very annoying, right now they're ranked 2nd. The expectation and what probably is going to happen is they're going to win the rest of their regular season games pretty handily, so there'll be no point in moving them down the rankings at all. They'll probably remain number 2 and face Georgia in a 1v2 matchup in the SEC championship game. And let's say this is the secondary nightmare scenario. The number 1 nightmare scenario is Alabama beats Georgia. Then we're getting 2 teams in the playoff. The other nightmare scenario is Alabama destroys everyone up until the SEC championship game, remains number 2, and then loses a close game to the number 1 ranked team in the country. You don't think for a second that SEC fans, that people on ESPN are going to be arguing that Alabama, who was ranked number 2, loses to the number 1 team by maybe a field goal or maybe a touchdown, shouldn't still get into the playoff? They're 100% going to be arguing that. That's why Alabama coming in at number 2 is annoying. I thought Bama would have been 4 or 5. Them coming in at number 2, it opens the door slightly. I know Herb Street was adamantly against. He's saying there's no way a 2-loss team's going to get in. I love that. I hope that's the case, and I hope he has some inside info within the committee to where they're not going to let 2-loss teams in. But if he's just speculating, I don't know, man. I don't know. Would they put a 2-loss Bama team in over an undefeated Cincinnati? Oh, God, please no. But it's just, again, it's one of those things that's going to be annoying. Alabama runs the table up until facing the number 1 team in the nation, and then say loses by a field goal or a touchdown, and it's a competitive game. The people at ESPN are going to be beating the drum for Bama to make the playoff as a 2-loss team because, they were ranked 2nd and they lost by a field goal to the number 1 team. They should still be in. That's what they're going to say. I already know it. Setting up for 2-loss Bama in, like I said. And then the Coastal Carolina unranked, WTF. Just complete disrespect. And really, it goes back to all of these. My opinion of the SEC conference, it's 2 really elite teams and then a bunch of crap. It's just a bunch of average teams. And think about this for a second, guys. Coastal Carolina, Auburn, neutral field. I got Coastal 49-34. Seriously, I got them winning that game. So it's just Coastal Carolina, University of Texas, San Antonio not getting ranked. These group of 5 teams, I'd like to see some of these group of 5 teams get ranked, but they need to put all this SEC crap like Auburn, like Mississippi State, for God's sakes. I mean, seriously. Take a look at this tweet. Highest ranked team in the initial playoff rankings with 0 losses, an SEC team. With 1 loss, an SEC team. With 2 losses, an SEC team. With 3 losses, an SEC team. And I saw a comment under this tweet saying, yeah, that's because the SEC is the best conference. No, it's not. It literally this year, and listen, I'm someone who is, the SEC has run college football the past 15 years. This year, the Big Ten I wouldn't say significantly, the Big Ten's better than the SEC, or at least on par with it. This whole idea where the SEC has the best 0-loss team, okay, Georgia, we get it. The best 1-loss team, okay, Bama, I'm not going to fight you on those 2 things. But the SEC has 0 depth this year. I'm sorry. To me, it's ridiculous. College football top 25 by conference. There you can see those teams: 7 SEC teams, 6 Big Ten teams, with the committee including Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa still being ranked. That doesn't surprise me. They do only have 2 losses. Only 3 teams from the Big 12, but Baylor coming in at number 12. The ACC with 3 teams. We're going to have to see with Wake Forest. I think they'll lose a game, but if they do go undefeated, it gets really interesting. The independents right there. I kind of thought BYU was a little overranked. That's just my personal opinion. But the big story here, the 1 Pac-12 team. Just 1 Pac-12 team. I think personally, actually the big story is also 1 team from the American Conference. You think Cincinnati, maybe SMU being ranked, Houston after getting that big win, neither of those two teams are ranked, so that's not great if you're a Cincinnati fan. And then the Pac-12, I think Utah is the team from the Pac-12 that is good enough to be ranked, but I understand why they're not. This is just a food for thought thing. The simulated BCS standings updated, if you guys want to look at that. So this is kind of how we used to do it when we had the 2 teams. Georgia and Cincinnati. How about Cincinnati, number 2 on that list? Oklahoma 3. That doesn't surprise me because they're undefeated. Bama 4, Michigan State 5, Ohio State 6, Michigan. Notre Dame coming in at 8. So Notre Dame's had a good year, but they do have that 1 loss, and they're not going to get that conference championship. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Every Wednesday, I will be releasing, an updated opinion on what the College Football Playoff Committee is doing. Love the Oklahoma ranking. We're human beings. Just because Oklahoma's winning games, you got to understand the context of it. Love the Oklahoma stuff. Alabama being ranked 2nd scares me. It sets up Bama possibly as a two-loss team getting into the playoff if they lose a close game to Georgia. We do not want that to happen. That would not be good for college football. The best case scenario for college football and to grow the sport is an Ohio State Cincinnati college football semifinal. Let's make it happen, guys. We all want it. We all want it to happen. Oklahoma, we're tired of seeing them. They're 0-4 in the playoff. It's enough of those teams. It's enough of them. We want Ohio State Cincinnati, the battle for Ohio in the semifinal. It would be electric, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.